Our doorbell camera caught him sneaking out, but the person he was kissing goodbye wasn't me. It started with a strange feeling I couldn't quite shake. You know that quiet itch in the back of your mind when something just feels off? That was me for about 2 weeks straight. My boyfriend, Aaron, had started acting different. Not in an obvious, screaming red flag kind of way, but subtle things. Like how he stopped making weekend plans ahead of time. Or how his phone, which used to be face up on the kitchen counter while we made dinner, was suddenly always in his pocket. He used to hum when he cooked, or sneak up behind me while I scrolled on my phone and plant a kiss on my neck. But all that disappeared like someone flicked a switch. I told myself maybe he was stressed. His job in IT had been demanding lately, and I knew he was dealing with a few tight project deadlines. But even that excuse started to wear thin when he began staying late 2 or 3 nights a week with no real explanation beyond, just catching up on some stuff. That in itself wasn't unusual, but the coldness? The silence? That's what got to me. We lived in a rented semi-detached house on a quiet street in Leeds. Nothing fancy, but it was home. A couple months back, after someone tried nicking parcels off the neighbor's porch, Aaron suggested we install a video doorbell. Just to be safe, he'd said. We bought one from Kay's the next day and mounted it above the door. I hadn't thought much of it since. It pinged my phone whenever someone approached, but most of the time it was the postman or the kid next door accidentally triggering it. That was until last Thursday night. Aaron had told me he was working late again, so I curled up on the sofa with a bowl of popcorn and a soppy Netflix drama. Around 11 p.m., I heard the front gate click. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, motion detected. I didn't look straight away. I assumed it was the wind or a stray cat. But something nudged me to check, and when I opened the notification, my chest tightened so fast I thought I'd be sick. There he was. Aaron. Except he wasn't alone. He was standing just outside our front door, holding onto a girl with long dark hair, kissing her like it was the end of a rom-com. Hands on her waist. Her arms around his neck. It wasn't just a peck. It was slow and familiar. She smiled when they pulled apart. He glanced toward the camera and didn't even flinch. Then she walked off into the night, and he let himself inside like nothing had happened. For a few minutes, I didn't move. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I just sat there, stunned. It was like my brain refused to process what I'd just seen. I replayed the footage 3 times, zoomed in, rewound, froze the frame where his hand slipped under her coat. There was no mistaking it. That was my boyfriend. My Aaron. Outside our house, kissing someone who was very much not me. And then, like an idiot, my first thought was, maybe it's a mistake. Maybe it's an old video clip. Maybe it's his cousin. Maybe he was drunk and confused and thought it was me. My brain did cartwheels to avoid facing the most obvious conclusion. But the timestamp was clear, 10:57 p.m. Just 3 minutes before he stepped through the door, smiled at me on the couch, and said, "You still up? Sorry I'm late." I had nodded and offered him popcorn. I felt sick. I honestly thought I'd throw up right there on the carpet. Instead, I pressed my phone screen until my hand cramped, staring at that image of them frozen in a kiss. I didn't say anything that night. I don't know why. Maybe it was shock. Maybe I needed time to think, to figure out if confronting him would even do anything. He'd already lied to me once, what's to stop him lying again? I didn't sleep. I just lay there next to him, my back to his chest, pretending I wasn't wide awake, blinking tears into the darkness. He put his arm around me and whispered something about missing me lately. My skin crawled. The next day, I called in sick to work and spent the whole morning going through the footage archive. That's when I realized this hadn't been the first time. There were 2 other clips, both after 10 p.m., of Aaron outside chatting with the same girl. One time she handed him something small, maybe keys or a USB. Another time she hugged him for longer than any friend would. That clip was dated 2 weeks ago. So he'd been seeing her at least that long. Probably longer. My stomach twisted into a knot. Every second I kept quiet felt like I was betraying myself. But I didn't want to scream at him. I wanted to know. I needed facts. And I needed to make sure that if I was walking away from this relationship, I'd do it with my head held high, not because I caught a blurry kiss on camera, but because I was sure. I decided to confront him the next night. I couldn't take the mental gymnastics any longer. I had to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. When he came home late again, I was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through my phone like everything was fine. He barely acknowledged me, just a quick, "Hey, babe," as he headed for the fridge to grab a beer. I let him settle in, listening to the sound of his movements in the kitchen, the way he shuffled in his slippers as if nothing was out of the ordinary. But I could feel the tension rising in my chest, like a balloon ready to pop. After a few minutes, I cleared my throat and said, "Aaron, we need to talk." He froze for a split second, then turned around, a confused look on his face. "About what?" he asked, keeping his voice calm, almost too calm. I took a deep breath and set my phone on the table in front of me. "I saw something on the doorbell camera last night. I need you to explain it to me." The air between us grew thick. His expression faltered for just a moment, a flash of uncertainty before he masked it with that usual smirk of his. "What are you talking about?" he asked, though I could tell he already knew exactly where this was going. I didn't say anything. Instead, I hit play on my phone, showing him the footage of him and that woman kissing outside our door. His face turned pale the moment the image filled the screen, and I watched as his eyes shifted away from mine, landing somewhere near the floor. "Who is she?" I asked, my voice steady but sharp. He hesitated, his lips parted as if he were trying to form an explanation, but no words came. For a moment, I thought he might deny it, say it was a mistake or that it was just a friendly gesture. But instead, he took a long breath, rubbed his temples, and muttered, "I didn't mean for you to find out like this." That response only confirmed what I'd been dreading. There was no apology, no regret, just a lack of surprise. That's when the floodgates opened. "Who is she, Aaron?" I repeated, my voice shaking now. "You've been sneaking around behind my back, kissing her like this? How long has this been going on?" He swallowed hard, visibly uncomfortable now. "Her name's Lily. I've been seeing her for a few months." "It's not what you think." "Not what I think." I cut him off, the anger building in my chest. "You've been kissing her like that, in front of our house, and you're telling me it's not what I think?" I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, my hands gripping the edge of the table as I tried to keep my voice from shaking. "You've been lying to me, Aaron. All this time, you've been lying to me, and for what? To keep seeing someone else behind my back." "I'm sorry," he said quietly, finally meeting my eyes. "I didn't know how to end things with you. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. She's been there for me when I needed someone." His voice was strained, his words losing meaning as they tumbled out. "I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to hurt you." "Really?" I scoffed. "You didn't know how to end things? You think it's easier for me to find out through a damn doorbell camera? How long were you planning on stringing me along, Aaron?" I stood up from the table, pacing now, my mind racing. The pain was overwhelming, but I was more angry than anything. This wasn't just a mistake, this was a betrayal. A planned, calculated betrayal. He didn't have an answer for me. I could see the guilt in his eyes, but that didn't change the fact that I felt like I'd been slapped in the face. "How long has this been going on, Aaron? How many times have you lied to me?" I'm sorry, okay," he said, stepping toward me, but I held up a hand to stop him. "No, don't," I said, backing away. "I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I need space." His face fell, and I saw the realization hit him. He'd lost me. And it wasn't because of one mistake, it was the build-up of lies, the secrecy, the betrayal that had been simmering under the surface for months. "I didn't want to hurt you," he whispered, but his words didn't matter anymore. I'd already been hurt. The damage had been done. "I'm done," I said again, more firmly this time. "I need you to leave." He looked like he was about to argue, but then he just nodded and walked out of the room, the door clicking shut behind him. I stood there, shaking, feeling the weight of everything that had just happened. I wanted to collapse, to scream, but I couldn't. I needed to keep it together. For me. The next few days were a blur. I felt numb, moving through my routine as if I were on autopilot. Aaron had packed his things and left. He didn't fight me on it, didn't try to argue. He knew it was over, and I knew it was. But that didn't make the pain any easier to bear. I didn't cry, not at first. I couldn't. The betrayal was so raw, so personal, that it left me in a state of disbelief. I kept replaying the footage in my mind, the image of him kissing Lily goodbye, standing there with that same stupid, familiar smirk on his face as if nothing was wrong. As if I wasn't standing on the other side of that door, waiting for him to walk in and tell me everything was fine. But it wasn't fine. Nothing about this was fine. I kept myself busy. I called my friends, tried to get back to work, but the distractions didn't help. Every time I tried to relax, my mind would drift back to him. To Lily. To all the lies he'd told me. How could I have been so blind? How could I not have noticed the signs? I knew, deep down, that there had been something off between us for a while, but I never wanted to face it. I didn't want to believe that the man I'd shared my life with was capable of something like this. But here we were. A week later, I decided to take the day off work. I wasn't ready to jump back into my usual routine yet. I needed to think. I needed to be alone with my thoughts, to process everything that had happened. I went to my favorite coffee shop, a small local cafe I loved for its quiet atmosphere and excellent caramel lattes. I ordered my drink and found a corner seat, pulling out my phone to check my messages. Nothing from Aaron. Of course. I wasn't sure what I expected. Maybe a message asking how I was doing, maybe some sort of apology, but there was nothing. And I wasn't sure if I was relieved or angry. I started scrolling through social media, trying to distract myself, but that only made things worse. Lily had posted a picture of her and Aaron at some bar a few days before, grinning, looking so happy together, so in love. My stomach churned as I stared at the photo, the realization sinking in even deeper, they were serious. This wasn't some fling or mistake, this was an affair. A full-on betrayal that had been going on for months, and I'd been too blind to see it. I shoved my phone into my bag, trying to push away the wave of nausea that was threatening to take over. I needed to focus. I needed to remember that I was better than this, that I was worth more than the lies he'd fed me. But then my phone buzzed. I froze, staring at the screen. It was a message from Aaron. My heart skipped a beat, but I didn't open it right away. I was scared to. What if it was some kind of manipulative apology, the kind of message that made me question everything? I'd already had enough of those over the years. I took a deep breath and opened the message. "I'm sorry. I know I hurt you. I wish I could take it all back. I never meant for you to find out this way. I love you, and I miss you." The words stung. They were exactly what I expected. Apologies without real remorse, words meant to make me doubt myself, to make me wonder if I was making a mistake by walking away. But the truth was right in front of me. The camera footage, the photo with Lily, it didn't lie. Aaron's love for me was a lie, too. He'd chosen her. I didn't respond. I didn't want to get caught up in his games. I deleted the message and put my phone away. I knew that if I kept reading his texts, I'd only end up back in his web. And I couldn't afford that anymore. I was done. That night, I went to bed early. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. How could someone so close to you betray you so completely? It felt like my world had been turned upside down, like everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and commitment had been shattered in an instant. And I knew that no matter how much time passed, things would never be the same again. But I wasn't going to let it define me. I refused to let it. The next morning, I made a decision. I called a friend of mine who worked in a law firm and asked about filing for a divorce. I'd been married to Erin for 3 years, but I wasn't going to waste any more time with someone who didn't respect me. I deserved better. And I was going to make sure I got it. It wasn't easy. Every step forward felt like a mountain to climb, but I kept pushing. The thought of starting over, of rebuilding my life without Erin, seemed terrifying, but it also felt empowering. As the days passed, I felt a little stronger, a little more like myself again. I spent time with my friends, reconnected with family, and slowly, I began to reclaim pieces of my life that had been overshadowed by him. But there were still moments when the pain hit me like a punch to the gut. Every time I saw a couple holding hands, or a man and a woman laughing together, I thought about how Erin and I had once been that couple. I thought about the future I'd imagined for us, the trips we'd planned, the dreams we talked about, and how quickly all of that had been ripped away. I wanted to scream, to tell the world what he'd done to me, but I didn't. Instead, I kept my emotions contained, processing them in private. I didn't need Erin's validation or anyone else's pity. I just needed to move forward. A month passed, and I felt myself getting stronger. I had filed for divorce and was going through the motions, meeting with lawyers and sorting out the paperwork. Erin hadn't reached out again after that last message. It felt like he'd completely disappeared from my life, which, in a way, was a relief. It confirmed what I already knew: he wasn't coming back. And frankly, I didn't want him to. I kept thinking about Lily, though. I had seen her posts online. She'd been tagging Erin in all these happy photos, their lives so full of joy and laughter. I'd done a deep dive into her social media and had to stop myself. It wasn't healthy. But I couldn't help it. She seemed perfect. The kind of woman I thought I could never be. She was younger, more carefree, and she had what I assumed was Erin's full attention. The comparison ate away at me. I knew it was irrational, but I couldn't stop wondering why she was so easy to love and why I wasn't enough for him anymore. One day, after another long work week, I ran into Lily. Of course, it wasn't planned. I was walking into the local Starbucks, minding my own business, when she walked in with a friend. I froze. She saw me at the same time. There was a brief, awkward moment of recognition before she looked away. But I couldn't look away. She was gorgeous, no doubt. She had that effortless beauty that I had always envied. She looked like the kind of woman who was used to getting whatever she wanted. And right then, I hated her for it. But as much as I wanted to hate her, something inside me told me not to. Because, in a way, she was just another victim. She didn't know the full extent of what had been going on between Erin and me. She didn't know that I was the one he had promised his life to, the one he had sworn he'd never hurt. She was the other woman, and maybe she wasn't entirely blameless, but she didn't owe me anything. Erin did. Our eyes met for a moment longer than they should have, and in that second, something strange happened. I didn't feel the rage I'd expected. I didn't feel the jealousy or the bitterness. Instead, I felt sorry for her. I felt sorry for both of us, in fact. She had what I wanted, but she would never get what I had, someone who truly loved her. And as I stood there, trying to steady my breathing, I realized that I didn't want any of this. I didn't want the drama, the pain, the heartache. I just wanted peace. I wanted to move on with my life. I finished my coffee and left the cafe, deciding to take a long walk in the park to clear my mind. I didn't need to confront Lily. I didn't need to know everything about her or what Erin had said to her. What I needed was closure. I needed to let go of the past and start focusing on my future, whatever that looked like. The next few weeks passed in a blur of legal meetings, paperwork, and emotional exhaustion. There were days when I thought I couldn't go on, days when I cried until I couldn't breathe, but there were also days when I felt lighter, freer. Each day I moved forward, even just a little bit, was a small victory. And I celebrated those victories, no matter how small. By the time my divorce was finalized, I had changed. I wasn't the woman who had been blindsided by Aaron's lies. I wasn't the woman who had spent every waking moment wondering what had gone wrong. I was someone new, someone stronger, someone who had learned to stand up for herself, someone who had rediscovered her worth. And as for Aaron, I didn't hear from him after the divorce was finalized. He tried to reach out once, asking if we could meet up to talk. I ignored the message. He had his new life, and I had mine. The life I was going to rebuild, piece by piece. So here I am, months later, looking back on everything that happened. I've learned that you can never fully trust someone, no matter how much you want to. People can change, and sometimes they don't love you the way you love them. But that doesn't mean you stop loving yourself. It doesn't mean you stop fighting for your own happiness. And if I've learned anything, it's that I am enough. I've always been enough. What do you think? Tell us in the comments. Like the video and hit the subscribe button for more Reddit stories.